Absolutely. So I think there are two primary reasons to pass the Genius Act now. One is that it's just good policy. There's some concern among Americans that stablecoins are not adequately backed by dollar or dollar equivalent reserves like treasury bills. The Genius Act would provide consumer protection to make sure that if you have a stablecoin, it is redeemable on a one-to-one basis for dollar in a full reserve model. It also provides some insulation from White House politics between administrations for companies or financial institutions like banks that want to use stablecoins, which are frankly more efficient ways to move dollars than the legacy banking rails or SWIFT or FedNow, that they can go ahead and use those rails and that the rules won't change just because there's a new president in the future. And so that's really important. And it's also really good policy because stablecoins are good for the US. They provide a very large source of demand for treasuries, for US sovereign debt. Our Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, has estimated that they could provide at least $2 trillion of demand for U.S. government debt, which is really helpful in keeping yields down, which is a real priority of this administration and good for the dollar. And then it proliferates dollars around the world to places that will, A, provide demand for dollars, which is good for the status of the world reserve currency, and B, is really good for people, especially in authoritarian countries who don't have access to U.S. bank accounts and for whom it's very dangerous and difficult to get access to physical cash. So it's good policy. The other reason to pass it, really specific to the digital asset in crypto industry, is that it's going to be very hard to pass any kind of crypto legislation if we don't get this one through. This should be the least controversial, sort of most modest piece of legislation. It's easier to wrap your mind around stablecoins than it is on the difference between a utility token and a meme coin and a security and a commodity. And stablecoins, I think, other than Bitcoin, are the only part of the digital asset industry that so far has found robust product market fit. And there are just fewer regulatory issues around Bitcoin. And so if we get this bill passed, I think that helps create momentum for other strong industry priorities like a market structure bill, and amending the securities laws to do all sorts of exciting Web3 stuff. And conversely, if this Genius Act falls flat, if we can't get this across the finish line, it's going to be very hard anytime soon to convince sort of House leadership or Senate leadership to really take up crypto legislation. So I really do think the Genius Act for the industry is a must-pass bill if we're going to move forward with any of our legislative priorities.